This is the story of the prison phone king, and by extension, the whole rotten prison telecom industry. Jonathan Logan. His parents say they held them up at gunpoint. To understand Jonathan Logan and smart communications, it helps to understand the ecosystem which allowed them to thrive. America, but more specifically, the US prison telecom industry. Very briefly, the industry started in the 1970s when new tough-on-crime policies started the ball rolling on mass incarceration. At the time, AT&T had been operating a nationwide telecom monopoly for about 70 years, including the payphones in jails and prisons, which became available in the mid-1970s. Inmates would collect calls at rates which were expensive, but similar to those paid by the general public. In 1984, federal regulators broke up the AT&T monopoly after a years-long antitrust case, and new competitors entered the market, including companies that focused solely on prison telecoms. The Telematic Corporation was the first in 1986, and Global Tel-Link was founded in 1989. These two companies would eventually dominate the market. By the late 1980s, a different sort of monopoly emerged as prison and jail officials entered into profit-sharing arrangements with telecom providers. A company would be granted exclusive service rights, and a percent of their revenue would be paid to the state or facility. Kickbacks would be a great brand name for a new type of sneaker. This incentivized officials to contract with the most expensive providers because they would get more money in commissions.
Save up to 20% of the cost of heating, cooling, lighting, while improving your communications capabilities. Energy and communications managed by a single system.
The 90s were the apex of the prison privatization bonanza, and the US was building a new prison every 10 days. Phone rates for the public were dropping, while rates for inmates and their families were going up. By the mid-90s, a 15-minute in-state phone call cost inmates up to $20. For out-of-state calls, it was up to $30 for 15 minutes. In 2004, private equity entered the chat when the firm HIG Capital merged the Telematic Corporation with Evercom Systems, forming Securus Technologies. The same year, another private equity firm, the Gauze Group, bought Global Tel-Link and 2 years later merged it with Verizon's prison telecom division, forming Viapath Technologies. These two private equity-backed companies, Securus and Viapath, are now the biggest prison telecom providers in the country, together controlling nearly 80% of the market.
Securus, we're always trying to raise the bar, and the training team really did that this year. They identified empathy and first call resolution as key drivers of success.
The prison telecoms industry soon became worth more than $1 billion per year. But the early 2000s also saw increased scrutiny of prison telecoms. In 2000, an elderly, blind, retired nurse named Martha Wright sued private prison company CoreCivic over its telecom contracts after spending thousands of dollars per year to speak with her grandson in prison, sometimes going without her medication to afford it. The case was referred to the Federal Communications Commission, which sat on it for almost 10 years, but it seemed likely that regulation was on the horizon. It was during this period, in 2009, that a Michigan man named Jonathan Logan founded Smart Communications. His business partner was his father, James Logan, a businessman also who owned a marina and several automotive businesses. Yes, his dad owned a dealership, many dealerships even.
Want to see what 11,000 square feet of luxury looks like? Follow me.
Jonathan's sister, Alexis, served as the company's attorney, and his mother, Janice, was involved in the company in ways which aren't entirely clear, but more on that later. According to James Logan, his son's early life was one of absolute indulgence. He had motorcycles, four-wheelers, snowmobiles, jet skis, personal mechanics, and personal trainers, and his parents paid someone to do his homework so he could race motorcycles. John didn't like his mother and sister, but was close with his father. In his 20s, after briefly attempting professional motocross, he joined one of his father's car dealership businesses. So what inspired Logan to start a prison telecom company? Well, in 2007, at the age of 25, he and his father were doing business of some kind with a car dealer named Blake Mossholder. There was some kind of disagreement over money, and they had a falling out. Mossholder got a restraining order against John, whom he said chased him in a car. Then, Mossholder and his wife, Amy, who had cancer and was enduring chemotherapy, started getting weird phone calls and strangers showing up at their house. Someone had posted a series of ads on Craigslist claiming to be Amy Mossholder, telling people to come to their house and have sex with her. The posts included the couple's address and phone numbers and referred to Mrs. Mossholder as Dirty Amy. The Mossholders, horrified, contacted the authorities, and the deranged ads were tracked back to Jonathan Logan. In 2008, Logan pled guilty to a felony charge of aggravated stalking and was sentenced to 11 months in county jail. By then, Amy Mossholder's cancer had spread and she died only 2 years after Logan's conviction. Later, when Logan was making millions, he bought his first boat for $1 million and named it Dirty Amy. In 2025, speaking to The Lever, Logan insisted that he never wrote the Craigslist ads and that he was intentionally framed. And yet he named a boat after the dead woman that he harassed, or didn't harass. Whatever. He further said to The Lever, "The Mossholders don't deserve sympathy. I deserve justice. I want to do a tongue-in-cheek name on my boat. That's my right. I earned it." And so, Logan says his time in jail inspired him to start his company, Smart Communications. After his release, he and the family moved to Florida around 2009. In 2010, Logan's sister Alexis was dating a wealthy Florida-based insurance agent named Melvin William Trey Engelke III, whose social circle included one Pam Bondi. According to Engelke, one day when he and Alexis were having dinner with her parents, her father James had a business proposal for an idea his son came up with, called Smart Jail Mail, a product for jails and prisons where inmates use a kiosk to send and receive emails at 50 cents a pop. Engelke agreed to invest an initial $100,000 and later another $150K. In the summer of 2010, they got their first contract with a small jail in Florida. Engelke and the Logans met with sheriffs throughout the South trying to sell their email system to more facilities, but didn't have much luck. Engelke decided that the key to their success was the American Correctional Association, the trade group for the prison industry. Luckily, he knew the president of the group, a Virginian sheriff named Michael Wade. So they flew Wade to Florida and took him out for $100 steaks and to a strip club named Mons Venus World Famous Nude Strip Club Tampa. After that, Wade was on board. According to Engelke, the sheriff said he would make their company big and that he might not run for office again and instead come looking for a job from them.
Dave, get next to it for perspective.
But Engelke started having issues with the Logans, especially regarding use of company money for personal expenses. Engelke recalled John saying to him, "This is my fucking company, and if I want to take a girl to the Keys for the weekend and charge it to the company, I'll do so." Engelke also said that he lent money to Alexis, and when he tried to get it back, he discovered that her mother Janice had actually used it for a facelift. Basically, he was getting a bit suspicious. But the agreement between the Logans and Engelke was, somehow, not put in writing, and the Logans cut him out of the company. Engelke and Alexis broke up, and Engelke sued the Logans, essentially accusing them of fraud. That lawsuit is going on to this day. But Smart Communications continued on, and in 2016 they introduced another product, MailGuard TM, the first prison mail digitization service. Instead of sending mail directly to inmates, their families send it to a P.O. box in Florida, where the company scans and uploads it to their digital system, and inmates view it on company kiosks. The original mail, whatever it is, a child's drawing, a birthday card, an original copy of the Declaration of Independence, are destroyed, and digital copies are kept in a company database for 7 years after the inmate's release. What is the purpose of this product? To stop drugs from entering prisons in the mail. My God. In 2017, just 1 year after launching the product, Logan told correctionalnews.com that MailGuard had successfully eliminated contraband and drugs in mail. 1 year later, the Logans had the perfect opportunity to sell MailGuard. In the summer of 2018, prison staff across the country were mysteriously getting sick, citing symptoms like lightheadedness and nausea. The correctional industry insisted it was from prisoner mail being soaked in synthetic drugs like fentanyl, and that employees were getting sick just from touching it, which toxicology experts say is nearly impossible. You'd have to Scrooge McDuck it.
23 inmate overdoses and 6 staffers sickened. That's why the State Department of Corrections says it issued a lockdown, and today it says new policy changes regarding mail are working. Now, all inmate mail is sent to Florida, where it's scanned, emailed back to the prison, printed, and then delivered to inmates.
That says that the drugs are drying up within our facilities.
Some toxicologists noted the panic could be attributed to mass psychological illness or mass hysteria. One expert told the Philadelphia Inquirer, "Mass psychogenic illnesses happen all the time. We see it all the time with law enforcement. Police pull someone over and find an unknown substance. Suddenly, their heart's racing, they're nauseated and sweaty. They say, 'I'm sick, I'm going to pass out.' That is your normal physiological response to potential danger." Regardless, there was a wave of prison lockdowns across the country. In Pennsylvania, all 21 state prisons shut down their mail services, and visitation was suspended indefinitely. Shortly after, the state signed a $15 million no-bid contract with Smart Communications for 3 years of MailGuard. When the panic subsided, the state did find a few cases of guards exposed to K2, a synthetic cannabinoid, but no evidence was found that it came from touching mail. In fact, in the 5 years after switching to MailGuard, drug use in Pennsylvania prisons got worse. Gosh, I can't think how that could have happened. How do drugs get into prison? Something similar happened in Texan prisons in 2020, with a new program that limited prisoner mail to curtailed contraband. It banned all mail that wasn't on plain white paper, like greetings cards, postcards, colored paper, and kids' artwork. Officials contended that these kinds of mail, plus visitation, was the cause of drugs in their prison. 2 weeks after the new restrictions took effect, in-person visitation was suspended due to COVID. So the 2 things officials blamed for drug smuggling were out of the picture. And what happened? Both prisoners and staff told the Marshall Project there were even more drugs than before, and that the pandemic made drug smuggling easier because guards stopped searching each other at entrances. At the Stiles unit in Beaumont, Texas, with these new rules in effect, officials locked down the prison to look for contraband and found an unusually large amount of drugs. Not the usual amount, more than that. In addition to items that had obviously not been received in the mail, like jars of alcohol, bags of pills, and 74 cell phones. Did Texas backtrack? No. They doubled down and banned physical mail altogether, replacing it with a digital mail system from Securus Technologies. The reality is, most drugs in prisons come from underpaid prison employees. As I discussed in an earlier video, When journalist Shane Bauer went undercover at a medium security prison in Louisiana about 10 years ago, he was paid $9 an hour. The impression he gives, and really at $9 an hour, how could it be any other way, is that prisons will generally employ anyone with a pulse. They do not seem like nice places to work. Despite the data, states around the country switched to digital mail, and smart communications really started growing. Logan later said in court the company was basically on the verge of extinction prior to getting the contract. But soon they introduced new, more profitable products that would be bundled together with MailGuard. Logan would later say in court, MailGuard was the Trojan horse. If you need MailGuard, you are going to have other services exclusively by SmartCom. There's the messaging service, 50 cents to receive a text, $1 to receive a photograph, phone calls 7 to 10 cents per minute, and $1 for a 30-second voicemail, video visitation at company kiosks, 15 to 20 cents per minute, plus a $3 fee to use the kiosk, tablet services, inmates purchase a tablet, or in some states, get it for free, and pay 1 to 10 cents per minute of usage, plus additional fees for each thing's done on the tablet. I can't find these exact fees from Smart Communications, but it's probably similar to their competitors who started doing the same things. Securus charges $9.99 to rent an approved movie, and $19.99 to listen to an approved audiobook. And facilities that contracted with them got a cut of the profits. In this contract with Tarrant County, Texas, the commission rate was 80% for phone calls and 50% for video visitation and tablet streaming, with a guaranteed monthly commission of nearly $400,000. Just like prison telecom companies in the 90s, kickbacks encouraged officials to contract with the most expensive companies. The more inmates and their families, who are mostly poor, have to pay, the more commission the facility earns. It's important to note that the financial burden falls primarily on families, since many inmates in the US do not get paid for their labor. Ones that do can earn as little as $1 a day. 1 out of 3 families of incarcerated people go into debt, or go without basic needs like food to have contact with their loved ones, spending up to $500 a month. And research shows that family contact reduces prison violence, reduces the odds of reoffending, and increases the likelihood of successful reintegration upon release. But facility kickbacks aren't the only thing that drew officials to Smart Communications. 5 sheriff's office contracts reviewed by the appeal included provisions for sheriffs and their employees to take a yearly complimentary cruise in the Caribbean for training summits, where they can live the resort life with an estimated value of $84,000. Legal bribery. The appeal spoke to Virginia State Delegate Patrick Hope, who said these free cruises aren't really free. They're paid for with a markup in the jail contract, and that, while the practice is legal, is a loophole that should be closed. The paper also spoke to John Logan, who said that these cruises never happened, but court documents do show that they did in fact wine and dine sheriffs with all expense paid training summits. Soon the company was operating in more than 180 jails and prisons nationwide, and their revenue increased from $32 million per year in 2021 to $56 million in 2023, with John paying himself a salary of $1.2 million a year, in addition to the all-company-owned vehicles and properties that he used. Logan was rolling in money like a pig in shit, and became known around Tampa for his flashy, opulent lifestyle and conspicuous displays of wealth. A $5 million beach house, a $2 million condo, and a dozen cars, including a $300,000 Lamborghini with a license plate reading Inmate.
This vehicle is made of plastic and carbon fiber.
A $350,000 Ferrari Spider, and a 2015 Rolls-Royce Phantom. Then there was the apple of his eye, a $10 million luxury yacht called Convict, which had its own full-time deckhand and full-time captain paid a 6-figure salary. It cost $10,000 per month just to keep the yacht at the marina in Miami. However, things would take a turn in 2022 when James Logan died and left his 50% of the company to his wife Janice. What followed was a lengthy, bitter court battle between John and his mother over control of Smart Communications and the family fortune. Text messages and emails were submitted which painted a stark picture of John. According to his parents, in messages sent just weeks before James's death, John once broke into their home and held them at gunpoint, demanding they sign over their shares of the company, in addition to hitting his father in the face and slapping his mother when she tried to call 911. He emailed them from his Smart Communications email address, threatening to burn down their house, and wrote, "I really hope you fix yourself because you will be dead soon. I have zero patience left for you, and I am not one to fuck with on what I created with sheer willpower and brains. If you or Janice or Alexis try and take any more from me, I am prepared to do things the normal human could never fathom." His father responded, "Most humans could never fathom a son who says that to his family for any reason, let alone a son sitting atop his $10 million yacht next to his $2 million condo with a Rolls, a Lamborghini, and a Ferrari parked at his $5 million beach house. Exactly what did your family take from you?" James went on to say that John wasn't a great son, that he had been verbally and physically abusive, that he had recorded all the death threats from John, that he was done with him, and would sell his company shares to someone else. In court, both sides accused each other of using company money for personal expenses. John said his father used company funds to buy a $100K BMW and 2 Corvette Stingrays, that his mother spent $150,000 on diamond jewelry, that his mother and sister secretly bought a $1.2 million vacation home in Michigan, and that his sister used company money for exotic sports cars and plastic surgery, despite receiving a $5,000 monthly allowance and no longer working for the company. Janice, at the time, was living in a $4 million mansion owned by the company with a movie theater, stables, and an indoor pool, and she also drove a company-owned car. John tried to have her evicted and wanted her to pay rent of $35,000 a month to stay. His own mother. In an email to the Lever, speaking about the court case with his mother, John called himself a victim of terrorism through the legal system. He further told the Lever, "The bigger story is how people are willing to do this, to try and extort money from an innocent person. Which, I'm sorry to say, but that is me. I'm an innocent person. I built a business, I employ a lot of people, and I connect a lot of families, and I've done nothing wrong, and yet I am being painted as the bad guy."
And I tell you, it's very safe, it's durable, and
Carol,
it's lightweight.
You're scaring me.
So really, see,
Wow.
now it's locked in place, okay? So really, you say...
When it was all said and done, the court eventually ruled in favour of Janice in 2025, ordering that she keep her 50% shares in the company and that John pay her over $50 million. That case is currently being appealed. While the lawsuit was ongoing, in December of 2022, there was another hiccup for the company, and indeed the prison telecom industry as a whole, when Congress passed the Martha Wright Reed Act, capping the rates that prisoners and their families paid for phone calls to 6 to 7 cents per minute. President Biden signed it into law in January of 2023, though it didn't take effect until 2024. According to Logan, Smart Communications stood to lose $500,000 per month in profit. The prison telecom industry as a whole responded by shifting focus to unregulated parts of their business, like tablets and smartwatches. And there were even more legal troubles for Smart Communications. In August of 2024, the company went to trial over a lawsuit accusing them of supplying 3 jails in Florida with defective tablets that were easily dismantled by inmates, parts were used to create weapons, batteries were removed to charge illegal cell phones, and the facilities were unhappy with Smart Communications' product and poor customer service. The judge found that John Logan wasn't a credible witness and that his testimony was contradicted by multiple credible witnesses that he called idiots and liars. John apparently accused his unhappy customers of being part of a conspiracy against him. The judge also found that the other party could not prove their counterclaims, so no money was awarded to either side. 2 months later, in November of 2024, Smart Communications filed for bankruptcy, with the biggest creditor being a Chinese company that supplies their tablets. In addition, they cited tens of millions of dollars in debt to a Delaware company owned by John Logan. That's not suspicious. But it's a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, meaning the company isn't planning to shut down, only reorganize and continue operations. Which is exactly what they're doing. In January of 2025, Logan was seen at the American Correctional Association's annual winter conference hawking his new prisoner smartwatch, from which inmates can pay 50 cents to send a text message, while their biometric and location data is tracked and their conversations secretly listened to. And what about the rest of the industry? New rate caps on phone calls? That's a good thing, that's a good start, but oh wait. In 2025, the Trump FCC rolled back the caps because they led to negative, unintended consequences. Probably just a coincidence that the prison industry as a whole was one of the biggest contributors to his campaign. Completely unrelated. There you go. Thanks for watching. You can get these videos a little bit early on Patreon, and there's some exclusive access on there too to some videos that aren't public. No, some really good videos. I want to. Ooh, they're good. Yeah. Take care, and now I bid you fuck off.